Hey guys. I've talked before about a couple of methods that non-comic book readers might get started in reading comics if they were just that interested, and we all know how one of the biggest hurdles for them to get over is all the convoluted backstory and continuity that might otherwise scare them off. Fortunately, we have the internet at our disposal, and with the right kind of research, it's incredibly easy to gain a better understanding of whatever's confusing you. Granted, it may not be able to help you understand what's happening if the story itself is just badly written, but at least there's nothing stopping you from getting a basic idea of what came before it. But then the question remains, what are you supposed to do if you find a comic like, say, Cyber Kitties number 2, which completely defies all explanation? I came across this particular comic a few years ago, and on top of it being a confusing read by itself, I can't find anything online that might make it more coherent. The only bit of information I could find is a tiny blurb about how it's set in the dystopian future of 2063, and apparently, pleasures grow more subtle as vice becomes ever more sophisticated. And I can't even know about any other details beyond that, or even if that's accurate, because the only other issue available seems to be issue number 3. Other than that, the bastion of information that is the internet seems to have completely passed this comic over. Anyway, what initially caught my eye was that all 3 of these ladies on the cover look like characters from some of my favorite webcomics. We've got Lucy Black from Better Days, Carly Chinchilla from Sabrina Online, and some kind of a weird hybrid of Lizardbeth and Max from Broken Plot Device. What's even weirder is that this comic, which looks like it's ripping off all these characters, somehow predates all of them.
Well, that just blew my mind!
And all 3 of them are watching some kind of a goblin Muppet creature doing something with what looks like a couple of joysticks. Well, gotta give this comic some points for actually making me curious as to what the hell's going on. Our comic opens with what I can only assume is one of the Cyber Kitties from the title, flying around in what looks like some sort of Tron-y, computery world. And for some reason it looks like she's wearing an unfinished Big Barda cosplay. Here in the electron winds, I glide like a kestrel on the wings of my soul. And we immediately bump into the first big problem of this comic. It thinks it's more sophisticated than it actually is. I had to look up what a kestrel is, and apparently it's a small common falcon. So why not just say, I glide like a falcon? I really doubt that kestrels are the first species of bird that come to mind when someone thinks of their soul taking flight. I shouldn't have to take a break from the comic to look at a dictionary just after reading one line of narration. And I'm not sure why she bothered pointing out that she's flying on the wings of her soul. We've also got Insecticons flying around, and I really don't think they're flying on the wings of their souls. And for some reason there's something that kinda sorta looks like Sonic the Hedgehog running around. Because Sonic the Hedgehog is always running around in cyberspace, I guess. Yeah, this comic also thinks that it's sophisticated because it's including images of other, more popular characters doing, stuff, giving the appearance that this is some sort of social commentary or satire or some crap like that. As such, enjoy this random severed head of Luigi and some ponies being fed into a meat grinder. This is truly the stuff that makes a deep comic. The Cyber Kitty then continues her narrating. The corporate beast looms like a leviathan. Information is its life's blood, and I am the predator that feeds from its veins. And you're not going to tell us what this corporate beast is, are you? The only thing around here looming like a leviathan that I can see is you. After she feeds on its life's veins by sitting perfectly still atop some pop culture-based Easter Island heads, she teleports to that number NATO in the background, and I can only assume snags a string of numbers out of it. She tries to cut it apart and paste it back together when she is apprehended by the Silver Surfer. I am the mighty guardian, defender of data! Oh, go choke on your own smegma. Charming. After they exchange a few energy bolts, because I guess being in virtual reality lets you do that, it's revealed that the defender of data is actually your stereotypical overweight nerdy loser, who is also a cyberpunk and a malicious user, I guess. I'm a cyberpunk! I'm a cyberpunk! Look, I've even got the right haircut! Because bowl cuts are all the rage among cyberpunks? A goddamn user net nerd. I hate user net nerds. I'm sure there's someone out there who would be able to explain to me these subtle differences between computer nerd subcultures, but to me a user net nerd Sounds like a nerd who simply uses the net. Since she's on the net too, doesn't that make her a usernet nerd? And by the way, what's actually happening here? Some cat girl is doing something with a piece of data, some random user shows up, and they fight for some reason, and their fighting somehow reveals who this guy actually is in real life? Apparently, she can do damage to this guy's avatar, but he can't do that to her? And what did she even do to do that? Are they in a chat room? A message board? Second Life? What's going on here? This is so nonsensical that it's even making one of the evil staple removers from Tron confused. How did you do that? I changed his testicles into furry dice and hung them on windscreen of my mind. Yeah, because that answers the question, how did you do that? And 2 grammatical errors spoken by 2 different characters in one panel. Nice job there. We then cut to the real world, where we see that this cat girl is plugged into the Matrix or something, and that, yes, these cyber kitties actually are real kitties, as opposed to simply being feline avatars, which I might find a bit more believable if this guy can make himself up to look like the Silver Surfer. Normally, my suspension of disbelief allows me to swallow the idea of anthropomorphized animals pretty easily, but in a world where humans exist, and not even 70 years into the future, evolution and interspecies interaction have really kicked it up a notch. Anyway, all that confusing mess we saw before was all to try to get a high score for this other cat, Alex. Because pulling out some random numbers from some random corner of the internet lets you do that, I guess. And not only is one of our main characters a cheater, but she's playing on a video game that uses ribbon cables. I guess using old printer parts will be one of the latest fads of 2063. The third cyber kitty from the cover comes home, clutching a giant egg of some kind. Tammy, if you're gonna make another golem out of belly button lint... It's a giant egg! How do you confuse a giant egg for belly button lint? And how do you even get belly button lint if you all wear shirts that don't cover your midriffs? And we live in a world where golems exist? I would have thought that robots would be a bit more commonplace in 2063. It seems that Tammy has been hired to babysit the egg, because I guess we have giant birds and or lizards in this world too, and she immediately tells Morgana here to sit on it. Why? Alex is too heavy, and I've got to go perm my tail. Geez, Siamese are so highly strung. Oh yeah, Alex is way heavier than both of you. Look at that fat cow. Go into the bathroom and start purging, you fatty. And it's one thing when you're doing a job and you ask a friend to offer you some help, but you're just gonna drop the entire job into Morgana's lap just so you can perm your tail? Good to know you have your priorities in the right order. Oh, and I may not be an expert on cat breeds, but of all these girls in this room, wouldn't Alex here be the Siamese? Hours pass, and does Tammy relieve Morgana of the job that she's supposed to be doing once she's done perming her tail? Nope! She decides to bake cookies, and then she runs out of the house for some reason. I just love it when characters have a sense of responsibility. Alex heads out the door too, also for reasons unknown. What's the gun for? They asked me if I could break a 20. 1. Who are they? 2. What kind of a world do we live in where the question, can you break a 20, is answered by pulling out a big gun? Look, if you want to have hot chicks posing with guns, that's totally fine, I get that. But this isn't a pinup collection. This is a comic book. This is sequential art. There has to be a logical progression from point A to point B to point C. What happened to make this girl go from rabid gamer to Rambo? Of all the people to say, I don't know, the writer shouldn't be one of them. Anyway, Tammy and Alex leave Morgana alone, and she starts crying about how it's raining outside. And then she wraps up the egg in an electric blanket, and why couldn't she just do that before? And stands outside in the rain with a saucepan full of ramen noodles. Man is a rope stretched between the animal and the angel, a rope stretched over an abyss. And this comic is a rope stretched between stupid and what the hell am I reading? Again, if you really want to have hot chicks who are all dripping wet for the titillation of the male reader, totally fine, but going out into the rain with ramen noodles and waxing poetic? Why? What's the joke? What's the point? Why is this happening when you could have easily just stuck her in the shower or something? And then a Viking magically appears behind her for this one panel and disappears, and we never see him again. Recognize my obvious artistic talent. Draw something that makes sense, and then we'll talk. Alex comes home, again with no explanation of where she was going or what she was doing, and in the undisclosed amount of time that Morgana was out there preparing cold ramen, in the rain, the egg is hatched to reveal that weird monster thing from the cover. Note, the baby demon isn't as big as it looks. This is how Morgana sees it. Because drawing it to be bigger than it's supposed to be is clearly a better idea than just wrapping a border around it tightly so it looks bigger than it actually is. Recognize my obvious artistic talent. The other girls fall in love with the little monstrosity, but Morgana isn't too keen on it. Hey, where's my Game Boy? Hey man, your little freak's messing up my games. He's a data demon. They like to keep busy. He's a data demon? So what the hell is that? Is it a creature that somehow comes from the internet? And if it is, what is it doing here in the real world? Is it a demon that just eats data or something? Why would it eat data? This comic brings up so many questions and it doesn't even try to answer any of them! And what's even more bizarre than a creature that eats electronics is that apparently Game Boys still exist. And Alex finds another one of Morgana's games. What's this? Virtual date? It's nothing, put it down. Yeah, we live in a world where virtual reality is apparently a thing, but virtual dates are on console games? Even if you aren't engaging in online relationships with real people over email or Skype, I'd sooner imagine that virtual dates would be available for free downloading all over the place. And Alex finding this virtual date game somehow causes her and Morgana to switch sides. Recognize my obvious artistic talent. We then cut to outside their house, where three stereotypical dorkwads, including that data defender guy from before, are peeking through their window. Is it a girl? Is that a girl? Yeah! I saw a picture of one on a bulletin board once. See, it's funny because nerds don't know what women are. Because it's not enough that this comic has to be confusingly written or awkwardly drawn, it feels the need to insult its target demographic too. How endearing. Back inside, the data demon tuckers itself out after playing some games, and not eating them for some reason. And this prompts Morgana to say, "My joystick hands got RSI." I think she's saying that she has repetitive strain injury, but why would she when we never see her do anything with her hands? Especially not her joystick hand, since we've never seen her use a joystick in any way whatsoever. And why does she say this in response to the baby goblin thing falling asleep? My joystick hands got RSI. So get a boyfriend! What? RSI? Boyfriend? Is this comic just thinking of random words and praying that they'll somehow take the form of a joke? It seems that Morgana doesn't want to deal with this insanity anymore either, and plugs herself back into her VR Matrix thing. And of course, this is only one more excuse for the artist to draw her in another provocative pose. Baby, teach me the meaning of respect. In this comic? Sorry girl, but I can only do so much for you. The nerds then break in through the window, and surprisingly, they aren't so pathetic that they aren't immediately crying for their mommies after getting shredded by all that broken glass. 4 of them! Cool! They're counting 4 of them instead of 3? Are they also counting the little data demon too? I don't know if I'm supposed to be confused by this or creeped out. Surrender, girl things! You are in our power! Well, gotta give these nerds some credit. I'm sure that they've been told multiple times throughout their adult lives that the ladies love men who are confident and assertive, and you can't say that they aren't that. They're crashing through the window and demanding the girls surrender causes the data demon to very casually wake up. This in turn causes Alex to bust out her gun and shoot the ever-loving crap out of them! You little rat f***! just gotten that baby off to sleep! The baby's trying to sleep! Keep the noise down! So the nerds run off, but not without first swiping a few armfuls of the girls' video games? VHS tapes? What are those? The TV says that there are 3 more hours to go. 3 more hours of what exactly? Morgana's now enjoying something that has to do with nipple rings, and Alex is bummed out by how the demon is beating her high score. So that was confusing. The premise is non-existent. The plot refuses to be coherent. None of these characters have any redeeming qualities to them. You don't know what the hell the deal is with that goblin thing. The jokes are either lead-ins with no punchlines or punchlines with no lead-ins, and the handful of jokes that can actually be recognized as jokes are about making fun of the very nerds that the comic is trying to get money out of. Because that's the best way to make them want to buy future issues, right? So, going back to my original question, what are you supposed to do with a comic like this? Recognize my obvious artistic talent.